Hair loss. You know it sucks. So why not join the boys to bitch about it? Call in now to speak with Spencer and Specs. 0203-3724-683. This is The Bald Truth UK.
Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Ed. I'm calling from London. How are you guys doing?
Ed, man, how are you? Long time. What's going on?
I know. It has been a long time. I wanted to call in because some things have changed, and also wanted to get a bit of advice, get a bit of sound advice as usual.
All right. Well, what's changed?
Well, I don't know if you remember, but the last time we spoke, which feels like ages ago, I have no idea how long
it was
ago
a while
that was,
ago.
But, I had basically come off Propecia and to have a child with my wife.
Wait a second. Did you let us know that at the time when you called? Okay. For some reason I don't remember that.
Yeah.
But maybe you.
Well, I was actually back on it. This is a bit of history. To
that's right. That's right.
I was back on the Propecia, and I was taking minoxidil as well, and that was going really, really well. And I actually think I'd had some regrowth. I think the last time we spoke, it felt like it had stopped any hair loss, but I would go so far as to say that recently, as in sort of 5 months ago, I felt like I actually had regrowth. My hair definitely seemed thicker and fuller, without trying to be Jennifer Aniston. But to follow that up, we tried for another baby, and so I've come off the Propecia again, while staying on the minoxidil, and I think I've definitely noticed that I've lost some of that regrowth.
How, Ed, how long have you since come off the finasteride and been trying for a child? Hence, you said you're losing a bit of ground. So how long have you actually come off the finasteride since the benefits?
I think it's been about, I think it's I've not kept like really close tabs on it, but it has been over 5 months. It's been about 5 or 6 months in total. Yep. And I know it says on the box, if you stop taking this, within 12 months you could lose all the regrowth or whatever.
Well, let me ask you: Have you impregnated your wife?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the job is
done.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. Good work, Ed.
All right. So are you ready to get back on the drug?
Well, I made a promise to her that whilst we were trying and until the birth, that I would stay off the stuff. No, I'm not going back on it yet, and then I guess it's not going to be for another 5 or 6 months.
Now again, I'm not a physician, but you guys maybe discuss. I mean, if it's really that important to you, maybe using condoms during this period.
Well, this is something that I've considered. I guess that she, sort of made me promise, and I think she was worried about even sort of coming into contact with it. I don't know. Obviously, it's not like hanging around in the bathroom or anything like that. So it's well out of the way because we've got another child. So
I figured you have one kid. Your wife is pregnant. It's not like you're going to have a lot of sex anyway.
No.
Oh yeah.
I think you guys have hit the nail on the head. I don't even know what I'm worried about.
No, but it's interesting. Sorry, Ed, we got a bit of a changeover. Just quickly, while I got my trail of thought there, it's interesting to hear you say that you benefited from the finasteride, and then 5 months ago, 6 months ago, you came off the medication and have since recently seen that you're losing a little bit of ground, so to speak. That is a classic kind of timeline with regards to losing the benefits from the finasteride. In my experience with speaking with a lot of guys, I appreciate your dilemma, and it'd be interesting to hear Spencer's view. We've all got our own opinions on it. How long, remind me, Ed, how long were you taking finasteride for prior to stopping it recently?
Well,
a year,
prior to stopping recently, it had been, I guess it had been about a year and a half. And it's funny because when I'd come off it before, I noticed that there was marked loss, and coming back on it, I and when we last spoke, in fact, it had slowed down the loss, and I thought maybe this is just stopping any further loss. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's bizarre because I've been doing minoxidil with the finasteride, and that combination. God knows whether it's just the minoxidil, but I guess it's not actually, because I've noticed loss recently. But that combination definitely worked to thicken up my hair, to the extent that I was most definitely getting comments like, "God, your hair looks great," and like, "Wow, your hair looks good."
Here's the good news. Here's the good news. You know that you've been off the drug before, and then you've gotten back on it, and you were able to see results. You saw that you were losing some ground when you were off it, and when you got back on it, it was working for you again. You're probably going to react in the exact same way once you decide to get back on the drug. The issue is, can you wait 5 or 6 months to jump back on? Because then there's going to be another waiting period before the drug really starts to work. And in some cases, and this is not meant to scare you, depending on when you catch the cycle, if you're catching it in the telogen phase when you start the drug again, you could end up pushing yourself into a shed or a telogen effluvium. So then you're going to wait several more months and look even worse. Or you can be lucky enough to catch it in an anagen phase, and then the growth will happen pretty quickly. In the end, you're going to benefit from it once you get back on it, and at least judging from your history. And again, I'm not a physician, but you really have to kind of weigh the pros and cons of waiting this long. And, if you can, again, I'm not a doctor, but if you can keep the drug out of your wife's hands and you can wear a condom, I'm pretty sure you're going to be safe.
Okay. That's reassuring, because, as you guys, I'm sure you hear from callers all the time, but it's just so horrible to have, feel like I've made some inroads with this whole thing, and then suddenly, I might be wearing a black jumper or whatever, and I'm seeing I've got fair hair, and I see my fair hair on the jumper, and it's just like, shit, there's definite loss. I
have one question for you. Like, how often do you wear black jumpers? When does that ever enter your wardrobe? Is that like for acting or?
No. It's just like it's navy blue, to be honest.
Okay.
Spence, you're ribbing him. Ed won't want to call back.
No. Okay. So, but also, you get out the bath, and like when you're cleaning the bath, it's like I notice that there's more hair than usual.
And that's classic. That's what happens when you stop using the drug. And it took you said you've been off it for over a year now?
No, I've only been off it for about 5
months. Okay, 5 or 6 months. Yeah, that's actually the classic timing to see shedding.
I would, if I can add anything, I would say, and obviously this is only my opinion, but the longer you stay off the drug, then like Spencer said, the longer it's potentially going to take you to get back to where you were at your optimum. However, I have come across a number of guys who've started the drug, and without wanting to put any fear in you, there is always the debate of the longer you stay off the drug, the less likely you are to get back to where you were. I know Spencer's opinion, but you kind of maybe a difference of opinion there, Spence. But I suppose it's just everybody is different.
I know. I don't disagree with you. I think that he's definitely going to see results because he's done it before. But you're right. He may not get back to his baseline. It may never happen again. It may get to the point. I've seen that a lot. Yeah, and that's why I usually tell guys, listen, I'm a fan of getting off the drug if you're planning on getting your wife pregnant. Most guys don't, and I have never heard of a single case of a birth defect in this instance. When the guy's taking the drug, but. And like I have a good buddy of mine who actually got his much younger wife pregnant not too long ago. He's been on the drug for over 10 years. Kid is perfectly fine. And that happens all the time. But I think you did the right thing. You don't want to be that anomaly. You don't want to be that 1 in 10 million where that drug caused the kid to have birth defects. But I think But I think, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think I'm a cautious person myself, but I think you guys may be, and again, this is your choice, a little overly cautious as far as worrying about the situation. Now, yes, your wife is going to be breastfeeding once she has the child. So, okay, so you got to wait till the 9-month mark. She has the kid. Then you got to wait, another year and a half until she stops breastfeeding?
Yeah, well, this is the worry. That I feel like all these things sort of add up.
You're going to be walking around like Homer Simpson, by the time the kid is 2 years old.
I mean, this is my worry, and this sort of spurred my call because I was sort of wondering, will I get back to where I was?
I think Specs made a really good point. I'm glad he brought it up. Even though I think that you're going to respond well once you get back on, you may not have the opportunity to respond in the same manner, meaning that, excuse me, that the hair is just too miniaturized. It's been too long of a separation from the drug, and you may never get to that point. Now it's kind of like there's a good chance you can kind of recoup at this stage.
Okay.
Given the timeline, you're cool. I bet you're glad you really called the show today. But I think given
I am. That is good. So I mean, if you were to put a time on it, I mean, should I get straight back on it now, or am I still okay for another couple of months?
If it were me, I would have gotten back on it as soon as I had sex with my wife. But and then cross my fingers, made sure she was pregnant, and hope for the best. But go ahead.
Given your situation and given what you've told us with regards to, obviously you've spoken with your wife and you've assured her that you're not going to get back onto the medication, I think that's a conversation that you need to have with your wife. However, I personally would, and you mentioned that you are continuing with the minoxidil. I would certainly continue with the minoxidil. Don't overkill with the minoxidil to make up for the Propecia, not taking the Propecia. I would keep applying minoxidil as you have been, and maybe put some protocols in place whereby the tablet is kept out of reach of your wife in the car or
in
the garden shed or wherever, in your porn collection drawer, somewhere your wife just doesn't go, and have the conversation with your wife and say, look, for the next however. May I ask how far down the pregnancy timeline are you now?
It's about 3 and a bit months.
Okay, so basically, I mean, me personally, this would be my opinion, is for the sake of 6 months, 5 months. Don't even put yourself in the firing line. Maybe just abstain from sexual intercourse with your wife, and then it's a no-brainer. Or wear protection, like Spence said. I think given the fact that you've responded so well to the medication, you've got on well with it, you've had no sexual side effects, you feel it's doing your hair a world of good, it would be a shame to lose such vital ground that you've gained over the last couple of years by taking it.
And what about even speaking to a doctor with your wife, going to see your physician so that maybe he could allay some of the fears as well?
I guess that's a great idea. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's because I live in London or if it's a UK thing, but I hadn't ever thought of that, and I'm not entirely sure if that's possible in the UK. Where the doctor would be sort of have the time for a start, and also have the patience to sit down there with both of us.
Well, I think it depends on what kind of relationship you have with your physician. At least here in the U.S., we build ties and relationships with our internists. And I know that I can go and give them a call and say, "Hey, listen, I want to come to the office. We'll pay for pay for your time." But it's probably a little different because you guys have socialized medicine.
Well, Spence,
so I see a different doctor every time.
Yeah, that's not good.
Ed, allow me to offer a suggestion. I can put you in touch with a couple of GPs that I know that are well informed. You can have a private consultation with them over the phone, or meet them in person with your wife, who are informed on the drug, and you can get their informed opinion on it. And just feel free to email me, and I can put you in contact with them. And then
I really appreciate that. I would like to do that.
Yeah, then you're getting a really informed opinion by a GP who's actually understands the drug and has possibly been asked the question previously.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea if you can do that for him, for sure.
Yeah, no problem, no worries. Cool.
Okay, which actually leads me on to my next question as well, which is, it's entirely along those lines. I guess it's about Proscar and Propecia.
Okay.
And I'm very aware of the costs of having another baby on the way, and at the same time I'm aware that with one there's a bit of chopping it up involved, and the other one it's just a simple put it in your mouth and go.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I think I know what you're going to ask, and the fact that you are going to be splitting pills if you take Proscar, there is a greater chance that there's going to be some debris, some powder, depending on where you cut that pill up. So that does increase, it creates a minute risk of, getting into contact, your wife getting into contact with the powder.
Yeah, I mean, short term, continue to take the 1 milligram tablet. If you're getting a prescription for that, then there's no risk of, like Spence said, chopping it up, any debris, any risk of your wife coming to any contact with it at all. Moving forward, sorry, Ed, there's a bit of a delay. Moving forward, I personally cut up Proscar. I believe Spence does as well. From a cost-effective point of view, it is certainly a lot cheaper to go down that road. Compared to Fenestra, to 1 milligram branded Propecia, which is very expensive.
Just to be clear, though, as far as people want to know how I take the drug, I actually take the entire 5 milligram dose once a week. So while I used to take a daily dosage, I kind of loaded my body up for a few years and then started doing this intermittent therapy, which for me has worked. So I don't even cut the pill. I just take one dose on average once a week. And that's how I roll. But, most guys are kind of concerned to do that. They're afraid to stop the daily dose.
Yeah, I personally bite into my tablet. Yeah. So it's not necessarily getting 1 milligram a day. I might get 1.25 or I might get 0.75. But I take that, over the course of...
I bite into my Xanax, I know, so...
But it's a lot cheaper to do that, Ed. It's a lot cheaper long term. I mean, I don't know what you pay for Propecia, but it's normally in the UK £50-60 for a month's supply. Proscar's a couple of £100 for a 12 months supply. So for the same drug, if you get branded Proscar, it's the same drug. Would you say, Spence?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Made by Merck, it's the same drug.
And that's my question. Is it just as effective?
Well, I mean, there's no reason to think that it's not. There is some, there's some speculation that the medication isn't completely evenly distributed in the Proscar tablet. So sometimes you're getting less of a dose than on other days. I don't necessarily buy that. That doesn't really make any sense to me. I think that's kind of a rumor that, and again, this is just my opinion, that may have been spread either by the pharmaceutical companies or by some of the physicians because they didn't want you to go out and buy Proscar and split it up when, they at the time before finasteride was put over for came up as generic. They wanted you to buy the brand name Propecia. And they didn't want you to really save the money. So in my view, as a layman, I would say there's no reason to believe there's any difference. And I've been taking Proscar since like 1994.
Okay.
It works.
And I think even if the medication wasn't evenly distributed throughout the tablet, you're going to take the tablet over a 5-day period.
You're still getting
You're going to get it in you over a 5-day period. And like Spence takes the whole tablet once. I mean, everything. How can I put it? Everybody does it differently, and people respond to it differently. So find your own thing. Like Spence says, that's the way he rolls. You might personally find if you've been on the medication for a couple of years, so your body's used to the finasteride, you might just cut the tablet in half and do it every 3 days.
Right.
And that might work for you, Ed. So it's but to answer your question, cutting Proscar is certainly a lot cheaper. But I mean, then cutting the generic 5 milligram tablet's even cheaper than that. But then there's a debate over the effectiveness of the generic 5 milligram tablet when, that's debatable. I know Spencer's of the opinion that, some generics are better than others. And,
I'm a brand guy when it comes to stuff like this, especially, I've been on the brand for so long, I won't switch as long as they continue to manufacture it.
With regards to costs,
that as well.
With regards to keeping costs down, if you can find a good, solid generic 5 milligram tablet, then it depends how much of a cost saving you want to make. With kids on the way, like you mentioned, hence, personally, maybe just meet it in the middle and go with the Proscott longer term. Short term, I'd stick with the 1 milligram Propecia if you can bring your wife on board with regards to making sure she's cool with you taking it.
Well, how do you think your wife is going to react when you go to her with this information? I mean, have you voiced your concern, or have you just been like, listen, whatever you want, honey, I'll do whatever you want?
Because obviously we've been so busy with, the whole sort of like, my God, we're having another baby thing.
Right.
Well, I haven't really even had the chance to have a word with her, but it's definitely been on my mind. And I just, I haven't really felt like I've got a place to speak, given the changes her body's going through.
Well, you're an actor, right?
Yeah.
So why don't you just break down and cry or something, In
one of my black
he's called for some serious advice, buddy.
Yeah. I am serious. I mean, just really just break down and let her know how much this is affecting you, and I'm sure she'll be reasonable.
I think the worry I have is because I promised, and I don't think I fully expected to see a change quite so quickly, or to notice hair loss, and whether it's psychosomatic or not, I definitely could do with your
hair.
Like I want to get back on it.
Your hair, and it's probably not psychosomatic. I mean, you would see a change if you see the change. It's happening.
Yeah, I do think there's been a change.
Yeah, so. Look, I think we gave you the best advice that we could. If it were me, sometimes we keep our promises, sometimes we don't. That's just, that's just the way it is. But I would definitely have that conversation, and just let her know what's really bugging you, and just see what she says.
Okay, I really appreciate that. There's a lot to think about. I mean, I sort of feel like I need to sort of get back on it as soon as possible from what you guys have said.
Well, how would it, and maybe you could relate it to her this way. I mean, how would it affect your life with her and your life with your children? I mean, you think that, being preoccupied with your hair loss is going to make you a more miserable person? Is going to be more difficult for you to enjoy the kids, and your wife and your life together? Because maybe if you put it into those terms, she might be able to kind of understand it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, it obviously knocks your confidence massively, and I mean, it does then affect you and your relationship with those around you if you're preoccupied with something, or if you're not feeling as confident as you could feel. The whole, I still consider the surgery thing, because even the fact that my hair thickened up, undoubtedly it did. In fact, I'm still sort of like. I always think of that, and then I'm loath to do it. Like you look at the sort of the whole Gordon Ramsay thing. I don't know if you guys see that over in the States, but
sure.
I mean, and did you see the sort of the hairline thing that he had going on there? And
well, the only thing that we really saw here was the fact that he was going out with a really bad paint job after his hair transplant, and kind of wearing what you guys call a fringe. We call them bangs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he had all his shaved down. It was pretty obvious he was kind of a hair transplant very, very recently. And decided, I think it was Victoria Beckham's birthday party or something. Yeah. And he got papped, didn't he, coming out of the restaurant with this crazy haircut.
And this crazy makeup job.
Yeah, this makeup. It wasn't even like they tried to do a good job on it. But it was obviously he'd literally had surgery, I would hazard a guess, at the day before, if not 2 or 3 days maximum, which couldn't have done the donor area much good, masking it and all that stuff. But that was certainly I think that went global, those pictures, to be fair. And
I've got a funny story along this line. It's very short, so I've got to tell you it. There's a friend looking for investment in his company found a venture capitalist, or a vulture capitalist, as I like to call them, and he went around to their office, which was this swanky loft-style office, like wooden beams and everything like that, and I think the meeting went really well. And he was leaving, walking down the stairs, and he didn't even feel this, but the guy behind him went, "Oh, yeah, what you had there, mate?" And he turned around and he was like, "Yeah, you..." And there was a pause. Both of them sort of looked at each other, and they looked up, and this swanky office, pristine and white, had a low beam, and my friend, who shall remain nameless, had skimmed the beam with his hair and left a concealer mark
a skid mark
on the beam. And this guy looked at my friend as if to say, "What the fuck is that?" And my friend said,
"Oh no!"
Oh my God! Well, he said, no matter what happens, he's desperate for this investment, but he's never going back to the office.